Keith paints.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of Keith Paints. Today, I'm painting Tassel Tallstag with this human female paladin by Titan Forge Minis. It is part of their Titans of Adventure Series 1, available through their Patreon campaign. This video is also part of my entry for Season 2 of Goobertown Roulette. If you're not familiar with Brent from Goobertown, check out his work. I'll leave links in the description. Now, onto Tassel Tallstag. The inspiration for this paint scheme is based on two randomized Magic the Gathering colors as part of Goobertown Roulette. She ended up with red and green, as did a dwarf priest from the same set that will go on to be her adventuring companion. With two red-green, it might be okay if one leans red and one leans green, but I felt they should both be represented to some degree in each. Red is about freedom, fury, and fireball spells. Green is about nature, instinct, and growth. Humans don't provide much to go on. I made her of Tetherian descent, so she could be from the Sword Coast area, and randomized her name from the Chondathan list, as that's what Tetherians do. Her class, however, does provide two good options. Paladins take a Sacred Oath at 3rd level. The Oath of Vengeance is about righteous fury, which would be great for a red build, except that it doesn't add any fireball spells. The Oath of the Ancient, on the other hand, is about fighting for love of life and nature, not courage and honor, and not only aligns nicely with Green's values, but also provides a bevy of nature spells to go with it. So, Tassel is a Green Knight then. All Paladins have a little fury in them anyway, so I'd say she has at least a little of both, if leaning green. Her dwarf partner will have to lean red. I wasn't sure what to do for her background. I considered making her a noble, but I don't really know enough about the Forgotten Realms universe to give her a proper backstory for that, so I ended up going with a hermit background. This kind of works well with paladins, and gave me a very basic story for her and her dwarf companion. Hermits need a reason for their life of seclusion. Only the last three here looked interesting, but I ended up going with the last one. Pilgrims in search of something seems to fit well with a paladin build, especially when you continue on. If we skip personality trait and ideals for now, we find under bond, should my discovery come to light, it could bring ruin to the world. And under flaw we find, I like keeping secrets and won't share them with anyone. So here's what happened. She was on a pilgrimage and discovered ancient secrets, which, for fear of ruin, she will not divulge to anyone. Her dwarf partner I ended up making of a sage background. She approached him because she required help in protecting, or maybe harnessing, her secret discovery, and he is learned of the ancients. If we go back to personality trait now, we find the first one. I've been isolated for so long that I rarely speak, preferring gestures and grunts. That is maybe a little more crude than she actually is. But her sage of a partner is quite accustomed to long periods of silence as well, making them well suited to each other's company. And finally, for ideal. She has a neutral good alignment. She's not too concerned with your laws, but is definitely working to make the world a better place. The neutral one, meddling in others' affairs, only causes trouble. I'm not sure that fits. I think I would go with a modified version of the good one, which reads, I work for the benefit of all that is good and against the forces of evil. So let's paint the model. Leather seems appropriate under heavy armor, so I base coat her pants with dryad bark. Normally I would base coat leather with rhinox hide, but I want to differentiate a little bit between her pants and the leather straps that are holding on her armor, which I will do with rhinox hide in a minute. I base coat her face and arms with Bugman's Glow. She is mostly covered in metal armor, and I base coat all of that with Lead Belcher. I base coat all of the cloth hanging off of her with Corn Red. And I base coat her hair with rhinox hide and get her armor strapped at the same time. She has many different layers and bits of trim on her armor. I didn't want them all to be gold. I felt it would be a little too much, and I started by painting the wrong bit, using Retributor armor. After correcting that, I continued painting little bits of trim all over her armor. I ended up doing almost all of the trim on her legs, but almost none near the bottom of her torso. I shade everything but her skin and her hair with Nuln Oil. Normally, I wouldn't do leather with Nuln Oil, but for some reason I did this time. I brighten it up by mixing a little bit of Bugman's Glow into the Dryad bark, and layer it over the leather pants. When this is dry, I give it a wash with Carroburg Crimson, hoping to make it look like red leather. This actually turned out alright. I have a vampire lady that I'm going to try red leather on again in the near future. For her red cloth, I gave it a layer of corn red to brighten it up after the wash, and then began hatching with lighter red, starting with Evil Sun's Scarlet. On the previous models in this series, I have heavily cross-hatched their clothes. These pieces of cloth are pretty small, so I just tried straight hatching them instead, mostly parallel lines instead of intersecting. After Evil Suns, I used Wild Rider Red and then Fire Dragon Bright in just a couple of spots. I highlighted the straps for her armor by mixing Rhinox hide with a little bit of Bugman's Glow. I realized that I had missed out her leather-bound book, which I then based with Rhinox hide. I also used Rhinox hide to get her one visible eyebrow, and then Bugman's Glow to clean up around it. While I was there, I figured I would do the eyes with White Scar, cleaning up again after, and Abaddon Black for the pupils. I always find the eyes to be too bright, so I try to put a tiny amount of Agrax Earthshade in them. And while we have the Agrax out, her armor could use a second wash. For her flesh, I used the same color ramp I have been practicing with. I used Bugman's Glow, Cadian Flesh Tone, and Kislev Flesh, mixing them together with a bit of Lamian Medium to make a 5-color ramp, each color covering successively smaller areas. It is still hard to do gradients on tiny faces. I used Ironbreaker to start bringing up the shine on the raised parts of her armor, and highlighted a few spots with Runefang Steel, which is only marginally brighter than Ironbreaker. I used Gehenna Gold to highlight some of her gold bits. Gehenna Gold is a little redder than Retributor armor, but it gives a different look from the gold on the other models I've painted, so I'm okay with it. I painted the jewels in the handle on her sword with Corn Red. The jewels I continued with Evil Sun Scarlet, Wild Rider Red, Fire Dragon Bright, and a tiny dot of white. The one on the front actually looks alright, so I'm happy with them. I hit the handle with a bit of Nuln Oil afterwards. I came back and highlighted the leather on her book with the same Bugman's Glow and Rhinox hide mix as earlier. The pages in it I used Rakarth Flesh and shaded with Agrax Earthshade. For her hair, I decided to dilute the Rhinox hide with Averlin Sunset, hoping to make it slightly blondish maybe? I'm not sure how it looks. I think I need more colors of brown. Now, Green Knights are supposed to adorn their armor with leaves and other natural elements. I had originally considered painting vines down her pieces of cloth, and leaves on the two little round bits of armor on the front there. The leaves were just too tiny though, and I abandoned the idea, and there was no way I was going to repaint those strips of cloth. For the vines and the leaves on the base, I used Caliban Green, highlighting with some Elysian Green. For the tiles on the base, I used Mechanicus Standard Grey, I stippled on a second layer of Mechanicus Standard Grey, I stippled on a third layer with Dawnstone, and then, after washing with Agrax Earthshade, they got Celestra Grey highlights. The stones have a Xandri Dust base with Ushabti Bone, Agrax Earthshade, and Screaming Skull highlights. So, that is to sell Tall Stag. I really like this model, and I'm happy with my results. What do you think? Let me know in the comments, and check back next week for Orsic Frostbeard, her adventuring companion. Thanks for watching.